Well, hello again. Happy Friday. Welcome to another episode of CoachesCorner.health. I am one of your hosts. I'm Leslie Cadet, mindset and emotional awareness coach for mission driven women who want to make a bigger impact in the world by pursuing their passion project or exploring entrepreneurship. And I show them that it's possible to have both, that they don't have to choose because when they develop an unstoppable mindset and learn how to manage their emotions, which will protect their time, that it's possible to keep doing what they love, get things done more efficiently, and still spend quality time with their loved ones. Andy, over to
Beautiful.
you.
I love that. I love that. Never gets old for me. Uh, Hello, I'm Andy Lidstone, the unconditional coach, and today I'm unconditionally blind. I have no glasses today.
Love it.
So we're going to talk today about a wonderful conversation that's kind of an extension of last week. Why do we fix our partners? Why do most of us do it? Some of us admit to it, some of us don't. Some of us accuse our partners of doing it to us, and some of us don't. But most of us do it to some extent or another. So why? Why do we do that? First of all, let's define what fixing our partner is.
Mm,
So
yeah.
what would you say it is? I mean, we both work with people with relationships, but in different ways and different dynamics. So what would you define that as fixing your partner?
So for me, and I think this is just from personal experience, um, not so much now, but because I've been in the self development world for a few years, but I think previous to this, in my marriage and in relationships before, it's really like going into a relationship, and especially when you've waded through the honeymoon stage, then you start to notice all of these things about the person that you allowed to be part of the equation, but didn't bother you so much because you were in that puppy love stage, kind of,
Mhm.
I guess. I think for me, the fixing part comes afterwards where you've now decided, okay, now that I have you, now I'm going to start really like putting a microscope on the relationship and let's see what needs
Yeah.
to be fixed. And typically, I know just from a woman's point of view, we're usually looking to the way a man might speak to us or might, spending the quality time, what they're doing to spend quality time, or their idea of what spending quality time might look like with maybe sports.
Mhm.
And that it doesn't include the likes of their partner. So comes down to the compromise and not willing to, or feeling like maybe their significant other isn't willing to. They've already gone into it with that mindset, and so I know that's been me in the past where I've felt like, okay, your definition of quality time is spent sitting in front of the television, and my definition of quality time is actually us spending time together, doing something that we both enjoy, like maybe even going for a walk and talking, like connecting to each other.
Mhm.
And it doesn't always have to be that because it can actually be those times sitting in front of the television. But
Yeah.
my definition isn't doing that all the time. And I think that's what happens is you start to then reflect, start looking at all of the things about the relationship, and you start actually putting everything under a microscope and
Yeah.
then picking it apart. And then you want to fix it.
Mhm. I completely agree. My definition would be very, very similar. We find characteristics about our partner that we think they could improve,
Mm.
that we believe they could improve. Um, Now, I also want to include that sometimes we get into a relationship seeing those characteristics before we get into the relationship. So
Mm.
we get into the relationship thinking we can fix them. You know, he's a little bit angry sometimes, but I can fix that. Or she's a little bit airheaded sometimes, but I can fix that. Um, we do that. But I'm not talking necessarily about those situations. I mean, that's a small percentage of what I'm talking about, or what we're
Hmm.
talking about here
Right.
on this particular call. Because lots of times we don't, we like you said, we get into those relationships and we're we're happily in love and we're in puppy love stage or in the honeymoon stage. We're in that stage, we're in that first part where everything's exciting and everything's new and I just love everything about you, and and you're everything I'd ever dreamt of, and and although there might be some things that aren't quite what I dreamt of, I mean I can fit them in as well as into my dream. But then we get past that stage and suddenly those things that we thought we loved so much, some of them become quirks. They become maybe annoying or maybe even aggravating or frustrating. And therefore we decide, I think I want to help you fix that. And you mentioned from the women's point of view how it's often how he treats me, how he talks to me, how we spend time together. From the man's point of view, it's often how we interact with the outside world. So, for example, if we're part of a church community, I might want to fix how she presents to our church. I might want to fix how we, as a couple, are perceived by other couples. Might want to fix the way she reacts to her friends. Right? So for a lot of guys, and this is not true, I want to get into that in a second, but this is generally speaking, it's not a universal statement, but generally speaking, for a lot of guys, it's in relation to how we interact with people outside of our relationship. It's I want to fix how she does at work, what she does at work. She comes home and complains to me about her job, and I want to fix what she can do about that. Right? So for a lot of the guys, that's what it is. We're externally focused, whereas the ladies are often internally focused. They're often focused on the relationship, and the guys are focused on our relationships as a couple with other people, friends and family and such. Right? So that's what I've discovered, and yeah, we get into those parts of the relationship where we see, well, you probably could be better at that. And it's not so much the things that we actually hate, because those are red flags and we don't necessarily want to fix those. We usually put expectations and demands on those. But we're talking about the quirks, the personality quirks, the things that are a little bit annoying, the things that are, that I think you can improve. And those are the things that we fix. So there's the definition from both of our perspectives, and I think it's quite similar. We see things after that puppy love stage, after that honeymoon stage, that we'd like our partner to change about themselves. But why? Why do we want them to change themselves? And from my perspective, it's a lot easier for me to help my partner change what's wrong with her than look at what's wrong with me. And if there's something going on in our relationship, for example, from a guy's perspective, like I said, we were externally focused. So if I see that, or if I believe, or if I perceive, or make up a story, or even, hope, or some version of I believe other people are perceiving us as a little bit different than what I want, I'm going to want her to fix that, because I don't think I'm the problem. We don't see ourselves as the problem. Or if we do see ourselves as the problem, we see ourselves as generally a problem. I'm a failure. But I don't think I can fix that.
Mm-hmm.
Or we don't see ourselves as a problem at all, and therefore she's the problem, or our partner's the problem. And that's something she can fix, because she's nearly perfect. Or he's nearly perfect. But there's these quirks that we could fix and become perfect. We don't see ourselves in that way. We don't see ourselves as nearly perfect or pretty good. We either see ourselves as great or horribly messed up. And those can't be fixed.
And I also think like using the word perfect can be dangerous, because I believe that in that instance, they might actually be trying to change their significant other because they think they're perfect and this person's just not, they're not leveling up to the job, because
Right.
in the beginning you don't see all of these things, because either you're choosing to ignore that and you're in that honeymoon phase and you're enjoying the process of getting to know the person, and so instead of looking at the relationship from the very I can understand why, because you don't want to become too deep in the very beginning of like the expectation of what the relationship could look
Yeah.
like. However, I think it would, I think, serve you in a way if you could look at your relationship before you get into a relationship, that okay, what am I looking for? What are non-negotiables, so that you don't find yourself in those challenging conversations down the road, like, oh well, I don't need to be fixed. Well, yes, you do need to be fixed, and you have people who actually do that. It's something you said was interesting to me about the external thing. So as I said, I've been married a long time, and this was back in, I have to say, probably 2013. No, 2000. Yeah, 2013, late 2013. My husband, he was thinking that he was helping me. So I was working for a lawyer who was really nice outside of the office, but it was almost like he flipped the switch and became this completely different animal inside work. And it wasn't just me, because his assistant told me this is how he is. I was covering for her for maternity leave, and I would go home. I mean, there were times where I literally, I mean, people could hear him the way he would speak to me. Like, it was
Hmm.
just really, he would talk to me like I was a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And I would actually have to tell him at times, like, don't talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old. I am actually quite intelligent, and I can, if we just discuss what you need. Anyhow, I there were a couple times where I had actually told my husband about, and I think it was just enough of those times
Hmm.
where they were extremely painful moments for me, some of them with tears, that he proceeded, as I had left for work one morning and I was taking the train into work, so I had no idea. He called, and he spoke to my boss, or the person I was filling in, and he told him about that he had had a conversation with me, that if things proceeded, they stayed the same, that he was going to speak to me the way he was, if he was going to continue treating me this way, that I had given my wife permission to just leave, to quit her job. And he had a really, I guess, man to man. I have no idea all of the details, but the conversation was, like, I'm protecting my wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got to work, and I walk in, and he asks to see me in his office. And I said, okay. So I go in. He says, is everything okay? I said, yeah, everything is okay. He goes, well, he goes, I just wanted to make sure because I received a call from your husband today. And I said, what? Because I had no idea. And I was really upset, to be honest. I
Yeah.
really was, because
Yeah.
I felt like he had crossed the line
Yeah.
of calling my employer.
Yeah.
I'm quite capable to speak up for myself, but I realized in that moment that I had been bringing so much trauma home with me, not leaving it at the door, or at least
Hmm.
trying, allowing myself to just not always be trying to work it through with him. He felt the need that I got to fix this because he can't take it anymore,
Right.
and he realized that I was at my breaking point as well. So that fixing or fix it um, mode that he went into was understandable when I look back on it. In the moment, of course not, but when I
Right.
look back, I get it. So
Right.
that's my one of my experiences around someone trying to fix it.
Yeah. 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 And it was the same thing with my ex-wife and I. Um, at one of her jobs, she on the surface had a brilliant friendship with her boss. Our family was friends with their family, and and him and I hung out, and her and his wife hung out, and our kids all hung out, and they were all friends in school. But she didn't like working for that particular boss. She didn't feel respected in her position. She didn't like what she was doing. I didn't go so far as to call her boss, I did talk to her husband. Like I said, we were friends. I did talk to him a few times. Um, what I did most of the time is I tried to help her improve her interpersonal skills. I tried to teach her how to interact better. And it didn't work out so well. Much like your husband's situation, it didn't work out so well for me. She often felt like I was taking her side, taking her boss's side, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, it didn't work out so well. So, but that's us husbands working on the external, right? Whereas she often came to me talking about our relationship and how I talk to her and how I spend time with her, much all the things that you mentioned,
Mhm.
right? No, it's not spending time together while I'm watching a movie and you're playing video games. That's not spending time together. We might be in the same room, even in the same house, but that's not spending time together,
Mhm.
right? So much the same situation, right? Um, so why we do that though is because it's hard to think of ourselves as the problem. What I've noticed, and you said the word perfection is dangerous because sometimes we feel ourselves as perfect and our partner as slightly less than perfect. And that is a problem. And it's, I think one of the mistakes that we make in relationships is we perceive that that's what our partner's thinking. We perceive that our partner is trying to fix us because they think of themselves as perfect, and they think of us as less than perfect, and that's what we think is happening. And what I've noticed from talking to different people about their relationship is the more a person dislikes themselves or has low self-esteem or low self-worth or a low self-image, the lower their self-worth or self-image is, the more they want to fix the other person because they're not fixable. They don't see
Mhm.
themselves as fixable. So oftentimes when we think of somebody as a narcissist, when we think of somebody as thinking highly of themselves, what they actually think is really, really poorly of themselves, beyond redemption poorly. Like they don't think they can be improved, so they want to improve you because improving you brings up the value of the relationship, brings up the quality of the relationship because they're not improvable. They're beyond redemption, right? So oftentimes the people we think of, we believe are thinking highly of themselves, are actually thinking very, very lowly of themselves, so much so that they're not even capable of being fixed.
Mhm.
So oftentimes in those cases, we try and fix the other person because I'm not fixable, or because I really think I'm already pretty good, right? I'm as close to perfect as I want to get, and the few problems I have are so that I'm not perfect, right? And I've run into people like that too. I don't
Mhm.
want to fix all my problems because I don't actually want to be perfect. And I fixed these last couple of problems that I know how to fix. I probably could fix them in a couple of days. But if I did, I'd be perfect. And I don't want to be perfect. So
Mhm.
I've run into those kinds of people too. But
Mhm.
by far the vast majority, the biggest characteristic is people who think that they're not fixable. They're beyond repair. They're not able to become a better person. They're so broken. They're so busted. They're so, you know, um, just beyond repair. So they want to fix their partner. So what's your perception as to why we fix a partner? Why do we focus on them and not ourselves?
So here's the thing. I think sometimes when someone is trying to fix someone else, you had mentioned it. They actually have a low self-worth. And there's this fear as well. I think there's also this, and I saw this a lot. There was somebody that I had been connected to on social media, and she was putting posts out that were designed to the sympathy post, designed for them to get the sympathy. And a couple of times I would respond, and then there were a couple of times when I saw that other people would get involved and respond. And it was almost like this person had this need to hold on to that piece of them that would hold that for her to hold on to that part of her so that she didn't feel like she had something that she could use to get that comfort from someone else.
Yes.
So she always would post these things, and they would be very dreadful. Some of the things that she would put out, I can't remember exactly, but you would think, oh my gosh, like, are you okay?
Hmm.
What can I do to support you? And these just seemed to become the norm of the posts that she would put out there. And so I think that sometimes there's people like that. I also worked with somebody who had low self-worth, and we had done a lot of deep level work, like a lot of deep level work where she had to go back into her past and she had to really face some things. And this was a few years ago. And she would, at the end of it all, when we were able to finally get to the release part, because I take them through a process, and she was able to just really release her holding on to all of that stuff, because it was just like stuff she'd been hanging on to. She then immediately got afraid,
Hmm.
because she then no longer had that thing that had been her companion for so long, which was low self-worth. Now where do I go? So I think what happens a lot of time, I think, with people who are looking to fix others, is that it does come, I think, a lot from the low self-worth. And so they can turn their focus on someone else, and turning their focus on someone else because they want to fix them so that they fit into the model that supports them,
Yeah.
but they're not willing to allow something to for them to work through those things so that they know they don't have to force someone else to change that may not even need to change. I
Right.
think really all of the change, any change that I think has been the most valuable for myself, has been from me.
Yeah.
And when I can change for myself, that can influence those around me to feel more confident in holding space with me, whether it's friends, family, my husband, and they can then in turn want to and do the things that they need to for themselves, so that we're
Yeah.
no longer trying to fix each other. But
Right.
that's what I found, was that the women that I've worked with or been connected with have all had something about themselves that they needed to that I think it was a defining moment for them, of a definition of who they were. And when
Yeah.
it was, if they lost that, it wouldn't it they just wouldn't be whole. And yet when you can release things like that, you become more whole. You find ways to fill up your cup in a way that you become a better version of yourself for you.
Yeah.
But I think that's the scary thing. So I think that's my own perception. I don't know if I'm accurate, but I feel truly that from someone who's gone from not so much liking myself, blaming other people for my circumstances, believing that my husband was responsible for my happiness. So I had a lot of resentment. We had a lot of unpleasant conversations. I blamed him. I was angry, resentful, until finally I started down my own self development journey and started realizing the change from within was the most powerful for me.
Hmm.
That those things I had been holding on to, including past trauma, was what was holding me back and making me feel other people were accountable for my life. So I was always trying to fix other things, other people, because I wasn't willing to work on myself. And I think that could be the missing piece.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree that that's exactly what's going on for most of us, is that we we either aren't able or aren't willing to look at ourselves, um, and and we don't see the attachment our partner has to those negative personality traits, those things that they could fix. We don't see that they're holding on to them, but we are holding on to them. It's our comfort zone, but it's clearly not their comfort zone. Why don't they want to fix them? We see that it's easy for them to fix them. It's not easy for me to fix them. So in order for our relationship to become better, let's fix what's easy first. And clearly it's easy for that person to fix their thing more than it is for me to fix my thing. And it's like I was mentioning before, sometimes I don't think of myself as even fixable. Sometimes I think of myself as beyond repair. Right? And when we do hold on to those things, like you said, when I got it, I was in the same boat. It was always my wife's fault. It was always my buddy's fault. It was always my work's fault, my boss's fault, my customer's fault. It was always somebody else's fault. because I didn't see myself as the problem, but not because of narcissism, although I was accused of that a lot. I saw myself as not the problem because I'd always been the problem. I'd always been just a failure. I was never good enough, anyways. So I wasn't any more of the problem in my relationship than I was when I was 6. I wasn't any more the problem in my job than I was when I was a teenager. So how could I be the problem? I didn't cause the problem. I've been this bad characteristic, these bad ways of functioning in the world. That's been existing since I was little. So clearly I'm not causing a problem, and therefore something else has changed and has to be the problem. And like you said, it wasn't until I started on my personal development, my self-help journey, that I discovered that actually those things that I've been carrying around since I was 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, they are the problem. And that if I decide to work on some of those, and if I can work through some of those, and if I can, and I say if because I can't always, it's not something that that I know how to do on my own, and it's not something that I've always found somebody who can help me walk through it. But if I can get through some of those things, if I can work on some of those things and improve some of those things, then I can really lean into just being me and letting the people that I'm interacting with on a daily basis just be them. I don't have to worry about, is Leslie good enough to be on this call with me? I don't have to worry about, is my partners or my friends good enough to be in this conversation, even when they're doing something I know they could improve. Even when my buddy is for the 50th time in this month telling me that his girlfriend is the problem, when for 3 years we've talked about how she's not the problem, even when he knows he could do better, I can let him just be that guy. Even when one of my clients has been telling me for 2 years now that I don't know why I'm the problem all the time. And even though he comes to me and says, I know I'm not the problem some of the times, but I chose to be the problem anyway, I can just let him be that, because now he's recognizing he's got a choice. I can let the people in my life take their own path, journey their own journey. And I'll journey with them when they want me to, and just watch them journey when they don't want me to journey with them. Right? I can participate at their leisure, not at my demand.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's what my personal development journey has done for me. It has changed. It's changed my life. And as you've said, it's changed your marriage. It's changed your life. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing. And it all came about because I decided to fix me.
Yeah.
Right?
One of the things I've also learned, and it's really probably been within the last couple of years, is learning to separate myself from the problem as
Mm,
opposed to me being the problem. Because I think as in the relationships that you are helping to heal, uh, there might be a behavior that someone is doing, something that they're doing that's the problem, rather than the person being a problem. Because
right.
I think what happens is people start to feel less than when they start getting labeled like, oh, you're the one that's the problem in the relationship, when we could turn it around and say, how you're acting, that's the problem in the relationship. Your expectations, that those are the problems that are within the relationships. And I think that's how you, what I love about what you're doing is, and this really ties into what you do, which is the boundaries, the healthy boundaries, learning
Yes.
to create that space. And I think that allows people to like separate themselves. Okay, this is how I want to be treated, but it's how do I help my partner learn how to do, what to do, not and then that allows them to be authentic when they're doing that. so that they don't feel like this is a forced request, an
Right.
expectation, or a demand, as we've talked about. I think it's really like just having those conversations with our significant others or the people in our life that we are wanting something from them. But instead of going into, there are people that actually, that's the way they live. They look for people to fix. And I
Yes.
think that just really stems from they don't know how to fix the issues that they're dealing with, which
Yes.
again, it's not them that's the problem. It's the things that they're dealing with that are the problem. So they don't know how to do that. And the only way that they can actually get through life is to find other people to fix. But that backfires
Yeah.
because then what? Because if you get what you are asking for out of another human being, you want them to change and they all of a sudden change. Who are you being when
Yeah.
it comes to if they're changing to be this way? Now, if they flip it back on you, well, their expectation is if I'm doing the work to become this, what are you doing to meet me there halfway?
Right. Right.
And I think that's when there can be a lot of friction in relationships because there's only a one-sided demand and it's not an inclusive request. Like, let's work through this together. So
Yeah.
fixing, I think, is probably one of the biggest things that goes on in relationships because you think that the person that you're with is supposed to be perfect. They're supposed to talk to you a certain way. Yes, of course, you're supposed to be respecting the relationship, but your expectation of what that looks like, unless you have that conversation from a place where you meet them where they're at, how can you get what you want if it's all on your side? It's all one-sided. And I think I learned that, and that's why I think my relationship with my husband has become much stronger because we've learned how to communicate with each other from a place of let's talk about the issue and let's separate it from us as the couple and let's look at this and how
Yeah.
can we fix that so that we can, have this dynamic that we're looking for. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Separating ourselves from the problem. I'm not the problem. Something I'm doing could be causing a problem, but I'm not the problem. Yeah, that's and another way to look at that too is a word that you like brought up that I really like is it allows them to be authentic and allows me to be authentic. And I think we throw that word around a lot. I don't think a lot of people really understand what it means. Authentic means all those personality traits that you think I could fix. When I fix those, I become cardboard. I become a carbon copy of what you think I should be. Authentic is those quirks. Me authentically myself is talking a little bit differently than Leslie does, talking a little bit differently than the people that I care about do, saying things a little bit differently, feeling a little bit differently, using a few more F bombs than some other people might do. Right? That's me being authentic. And some people might think of that as a problem, but I don't. And I like that. You know, um, another example, I have a cup, just a normal size cup with a handle on it, that has the shape of a skull on one side. It's a Halloween gag that I picked up on Halloween one year, but I drink water out of it lots of times. And I was on a call with a Christian friend of mine, and he saw the skull, and he thought of demons and Satan and all the evil stuff, right? And just the way he paused and saw me, he was questioning our relationship all of a sudden just because he saw this cup with a skull. And it's just me being authentic. Like I just like things that look a little bit different. Gandalf and the Hobbits. That's a quirk. It's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just me being authentic. And some people judge it as bad. Some people judge me for those things, and that's okay. Um, because that's what authentic means. Authentic is sometimes people won't like me for that. Some people will judge me for this characteristic. Some people will wish I would fix that. But that's what authentic means. Authentic means we have some characteristics that aren't perfect. that could be better. Now, as long as they're not actually harming other people, for example, I don't drop F bombs on YouTube because we would get banned if I did. Um, I don't drop F bombs in conversations with certain clients because they would stop being my clients if I did. So I'm not going to harm other people. However, on our private conversations, you and I've done that a few times, right? Where we're not recording them and publishing them to YouTube. I've dropped a few of those. You've heard me. And that's a characteristic. You don't judge me for it. You don't hate me for it because you're not trying to fix me. I'm not trying to fix you, right? So that's what authentic means is I don't want to fix all the characteristics that aren't actually directly harmful. And actually, I don't want to fix the characteristics at all of somebody else. But I don't want to fix the characteristics even in myself unless they're directly harmful. So that's something too that I wanted, that you were talking about. You said the word authentic, and I wanted to just dive into that a little bit, because one of the things that we like to fix about other people is anything that's different than us. Anything that they do that we judge as wrong, or that we decide is harmful or unhealthy, or maybe a red flag, or even just a yellow flag. It's some of those characteristics that we wish were more like us. And sometimes we could be, by wanting to fix those things, we could be washing out their actual personality. What makes them unique and lovable to so many people. I have experienced someone who wanted to fix someone else to the point where that person became a reflection of themselves. And then they lost the luster in the relationship. They lost the value in being friends. They didn't want to be together anymore. They didn't want to hang out together anymore, because there's nothing exciting about the relationship at that point. There's nothing, that brings value to the relationship. So another characteristic of fixing somebody else is we might wash out those things that we like about them, even though sometimes they're frustrating. A common characteristic is, I fall in love with somebody, or I become friends with somebody because they're funny. And then beyond the honeymoon stage, that's annoying. That sarcasm or that humor is their way of deflecting emotional situations. And I want them to actually talk about their emotional situations, so that I get annoyed by that. And then so we demand that they stop being funny, and now we're not friends with them anymore. We don't like them anymore, because even when it is appropriate to be funny, they're not being funny anymore because they found we don't like it. So they lose that characteristic, at least in our relationship. And that's never a good thing. I don't want my funny friends to stop being funny. I might want them to take certain situations a little more seriously, but that's not for me to judge. That's for them to decide. Right? So, yeah, I wanted to just point out that authentic word, because I think that is the key here. I think that's the thing we're trying to fix. We often try and fix authentic personality traits, and it could be more dangerous than you think.
Yeah. So you're right. That word, authenticity, or being authentic, being your true self, is, I think, or I don't know if it's misunderstood, but I think really people don't realize what it truly means, or they're afraid of that word,
Yeah.
because when you find out that it means to be who you really are and showing your true self. Well, here's the question: when you go out and meet somebody, are you showing all of your quirks, who you are truly, from the very beginning, from the first meeting? No, you don't do that. You let people in layer by layer.
Yes.
And and so I think it's almost like a relationship, a romantic relationship. I think our other types of relationships, we should really cultivate them the same way, in that having that intention, like, what am I looking for in friendships? What am I looking for in romantic relationships? In these, and then all of those other people, well, if they're just acquaintances, people that in passing that I'm connected with, and there's not really any level of deeper level commitment, that's fine. But the
Mhm.
ones that you let close, that's those are the relationships I think where the honesty, the integrity really has to come into play, because it can't, those become really hard to, they're, I don't know if it's hard, but like a romantic relationship, it can become really super scary as you get deeper and deeper. It's the same thing for like your close friendships, can become very scary as you go deeper and deeper in your connection, because you're getting to know each other more. You're like getting into the inner circle. You've been like
Yeah.
let into like through the secret door, the magic door.
Yeah.
And now you're being shown pretty much everything about them. So when I to me when I go into relationships now, especially as I've gone through the self-development, it's really important for me to get to that a level of trust, but to really like open up, be vulnerable, allow people in to see who I am,
Yeah.
so that vice versa, it helps them to let down their guard so that they can get open and vulnerable and let me in, so I can see, are we really truly a match? And that I think is kind of like how I think our relationship as business partners in this YouTube
Yeah.
channel and other things that we do is that it really started from there,
Yeah.
from you putting out a call like, I'm looking for coaches who want to be part of a mastermind, let's weekly talks. And it grew from there, as then we decided to branch out to another one, and now there's another one where we're doing that, and we have our own mastermind where it's just the two of us. But I think that level of commitment, we both let down the guard,
Yeah.
and we did allow each other to start seeing the authentic parts of ourselves
Yeah.
that we typically do not share.
Right.
And
That's
so that's what I think happens is in relationships, especially in romantic relationships, once they get through that honeymoon stage and then they start to feel comfortable about letting the guard down even more, they're starting to show that inner, like they're starting to say, hey, come on in. This is my secret room. This is where I really live.
yeah.
And that's when I think people start to realize, oh, there's things about you that I now think I might want to change.
Hmm.
And that's where I think there should be more conversation around, because if you're going into a relationship and you love everything about that person now, but all of a sudden now you're in that secret room and now you don't like parts of them, that really then I think should reflect back on you, that did you do your kind of due diligence of like what you're really looking for? And
Right.
are you being that person that if that's what you're looking for, what about that person that you're looking for? Are they looking for you?
Right.
So that you have those types of relationships so that you're not getting into that fix it. And I think that's where for me relationships could evolve to stronger, healthier,
Right.
longevity, but it starts with intention around it,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
And I think that's where you and I developed. Like
Mhm.
just to use our relationship for an example. We're business partners first.
Mhm.
We're friends second, and we have both of those characteristics. And like you said, we uncovered that layer by layer. I reached out to a call, and you answered the call, and we developed a couple of layers in that first mastermind call, and then we went to another one and uncovered a few more layers, and then we started interacting just the two of us on an interview, and then on this YouTube channel, and we started uncovering some more layers. We started working together in a couple of other situations, and we uncovered some more layers, and we each of us had something like an intention.
Mhm.
At every level there was a thing we were each looking for. So we went into those next few layers with an intention. We knew we wanted. And there was a couple of times where we didn't necessarily see what we wanted, but instead of running away or blaming or fixing or any of this stuff, we had a conversation. This isn't quite what I wanted. Can we look at that and see what there is? And what happened, well, as we did that, as we uncovered layers, and as we had those conversations about what we're actually looking for, about our intentions, what actually happened is neither one of us fixed the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the characteristics that could have and may have interfered with some of the things that we do that I have aren't really different than they were before, right? I still don't put in a lot of work, and I'm still last minute on a lot of things. Right? And I haven't right, I haven't fixed those things. You haven't asked me to fix those things, but that's because they're more part of my authenticity rather than a
Mm-hmm.
problem, right? We've had conversations, we've worked around it a little bit, and we found ways to uncover those layers that work well because
Mm-hmm.
we're both getting what we want. So some of those things that before our personal development journeys we may have wanted to fix, we don't want to fix now because we're getting what we wanted, what we intended, we're getting what we came into this relationship looking for, right? Mostly somebody to collaborate with, somebody to have these kinds of authentic conversations with. And this is what people can get when they do this kind of work in their own relationships.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about changing the characteristics of the other person. It's about what am I coming into? What do I want? And am I being the person that other person would want to be around if they're going to have those characteristics?
Mm-hmm.
Am I being the partner, the business partner, the friend that Leslie would want to be around if Leslie had these particular characteristics? Right? If the person that I want to collaborate with, if these are the characteristics I'm looking for, what characteristics do I need to have so that somebody who has those characteristics would be attracted to my partnership? And so that's what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Look at yourself, what the characteristics you have, look at what your intentions are, look at what you can do to become the person that they want, that hypothetically somebody who fits that position would want. I'm not looking at Leslie to see what she wants. I'm looking at the hypothetical person who is my favorite collaboration partner, the somebody that I would want most to collaborate with. What characteristics would that person have, and who do I have to become in order to attract those characteristics? And by doing that work and you doing similar work from your side, we've been attracted to each other as business partners and as
Mm-hmm.
friends,
Yep.
right? And it's really been about focusing on our own work. And
Mm-hmm.
there are still personality characteristics about each other that I'm sure that if we focused on that, we would want to change. But we don't focus on that. That's part of the authenticity of this relationship,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Well,
It's fun sometimes.
yeah, it's a personal choice, right? You either
Right.
choose to focus on things that, the funny thing is, we can always find something about another person
Mm,
that we think we don't like. But is
yeah.
that really true? Because it's like where your focus is going is really, it's a testament to like who you are being. So for me to focus on somebody's negative side that I think is there, and I love your big cup. I have to like mention that. This always gets me cracked up, but but no, when I think about the relationships that I've made over the years, over my lifetime, and the person that I was over my lifetime in make cultivating those relationships, I've always kind of been the same person, but it's who I am today that makes me that much better version of me when I go to meet someone new,
Yeah.
because I'm freely sharing from my authentic place. So I will show you behind the curtains. I'll open the door, come on in, and let you see who I really am. Because I don't have anything to hide necessarily, nor not that I'm willing to give you like all the details of things, but
Right.
I'm also not afraid to share my story, because there's power, I believe, in when someone shares their story, a part of their journey that resonates with somebody else out there who's been so afraid to do anything about it. And when somebody else shares about it for them, that gives them the permission to take the first step. So for me, it's like I look at it as me being willing to go first
Yeah.
and allowing someone else to piggyback off my courage of going first, giving them the courage to go second.
Yeah.
And and that would be the most courageous thing that they will ever do, to do what they need to do for themselves to change. And maybe that could be like they're the person who is the serial fixer upper person who goes into relationships for the intention, pure intention of trying to fix the relationship.
Yep.
They look for the person that needs fixing and they gravitate towards them. And there is and I'm sure that is a reality for a lot of people,
Yeah.
because they're attracting people who have things about them that they're working on or not working on, they're ignoring. And so this person's attracted to, I want to fix you. And most
Yeah.
people, of course, go into, I would say most people would go into, as you would say, to fix someone from a good place, good intentions.
Yeah.
But a lot of unpleasant things have come from good intentions,
Yes.
because if someone doesn't believe, it doesn't is not there, and because they're not in your head, by the way, just so you know, in case you're wondering, they do not read minds. No one can
Are you
read your
sure?
mind.
Are you sure?
I'm 100% sure on that one. Unless you're from outer space, if that exists, you cannot read someone else's mind. You might
Right.
be able to kind of pick up on things, but
Right.
what I'm saying is that when someone is specifically looking directly to change somebody, and they are not, they think that person needs to be changed, if their work they have if they haven't made that decision that there's something to be changed or something to be fixed, and you come in guns blazing to fix them, trying to make them see what's wrong, all that does is just stirs up a whole lot of stuff, and you'll find yourself butting heads instead
Yeah.
of actually getting to know each other and learning about each other and growing and making a decision, having conversations, communicating, learning about each other. And and then they can decide, and allowing them, giving them the permission to decide whether they want to or not to change. And
Right.
in that moment, that's when you decide if this is the right relationship for you. I'm not saying that you don't have to be that serial fixer upper going out and looking for people. I mean, that is just not healthy for you, and it's not healthy for you to impose your will on someone else, especially if they don't know, or they're not willing. And all that does is makes a lot of heartache, and that also makes you feel like you're not good enough, and that can take a ding on your own self-esteem. So
Yeah.
how so one of the things I mean, we've talked about, like, some of the things that we're doing, or and some of the negatives to trying to, like, chase after other people to fix them, reflecting back on them, maybe their own insecurities. So if someone was thinking like, okay, that's me. Yeah, I'm that girl, or I'm that guy who constantly I find myself in my current relationship, or in relationships in general, pretty much my whole um, life. Maybe I'm married, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm divorced. And part of that comes from me trying to impose what I believe is my beliefs are, you need to be fixed. How does someone, like, what would you give them as a first step to really, like, figuring that out and taking action to maybe dial it back, or start looking within so that they don't feel like they have to always fix other people?
Yeah. Um, that's a great question. How do we examine what the solution is? Like, how do we fix ourselves? How do we turn the channel? Um, Ask yourself why. Why do you want to fix that person? and ask yourself, and when you're asking yourself why, I mean specifically, what does it mean about you if they don't fix themselves? What does it mean about me if my partner doesn't fix those characteristics that I need her to fix or him to fix? If if there is something that I need that person to fix and they don't, and I don't even ask them to, or I don't make the request, or I don't make the suggestion or offer the help, what does it mean about me? Why do I need them to fix it? Why do I need that? Not what would make, why are they a better person if they fix it? That's not the question, because that's the question that causes us to fix them in the first place. Why do I need that to happen? Why do I need, or what is it about them, or what is it about me? What is it about me, and what consequences would it have on me if they don't fix that thing? The answer I discovered is that if I didn't get my ex-wife, my friends, even my coworkers to fix their things, that meant that I had to fix my things. And I wasn't ready to do that. And I don't even mean things, big things or hard things or important things like addiction or narcissism. I mean little things like I drink big cups of coffee. I would have to fix that. I would have to fix that I don't eat vegetables. I would have to fix that I don't like to work at home by myself. I would have to fix that I don't want a job. I would have to fix these characteristics of myself if I stopped asking other people to fix themselves. So why? And what is it about you? What does it mean about you if they don't fix that thing? That would be what I would suggest.
Ooh, I love that. And one of the things that comes up for me is, also to piggyback off of what you were saying, is when we are in that place where we think someone has to change because there's something about them now. And what that just brought up for me was that movie, There's Something About Mary. I don't know why, but is we usually make it all about us,
Mm-hmm.
right? How we feel we're being treated, how we feel we're not being respected, how we feel that you're not doing this to please us, how you're not making me happy because you're not doing what I want. And it's all about me. It's all about me. I mean, so one of the things I think that, to piggyback off of what you said, was asking why, was also, what is it about this change that's so important to you, and how will it improve? How will it expand your life? How will it improve your relationship? What does that mean in the dynamics of the entire relationship as it moves forward? If this person changes, you fix them, or as you think you're fixing them. Um, but I believe the work comes from within. It's a personal choice. But regardless of that, they change because you've asked them, they've done what you wanted. Then the next question is, are you going to be satisfied? Because if you're the type of person who's already going into a relationship that you think they have to change, I need to start fixing them. Are you one that's like, okay, well, I find a little nick there, I need to change that, and I see something over there, I need to fix that. So are you one person that's like, you decided, okay, well, you did it, so now I'm going to look at something else and start nitpicking on that? So really, it's like, in answer to, like, to respond beyond that, it's just like making sure that when you are asking the why behind the change that you want to see in the other person, is like, how is that going to improve your life, and what happens when when that happens? Because are you going to be satisfied? Because
Mm-hmm.
again, a lot of the time it's like people say, well, when I have just to go outside in a different area. When I have enough money, I'll be happy. When I have a home, the home on the beach with all of this, I'll be happy. When I'm married and have 3 kids, I'll be happy. When I have this perfect job, I'll be happy. But
Or
I
when they
think,
fix that one
or
characteristic,
when
I'll
I
be happy.
fix that one characteristic, I'll be happy. So all of those other things that I described about that, if you get those, you'll be happy. Do you really believe that if they change that one thing that you think you have to fix, are you going to be happy?
Right.
Right? And so
Are you
that's
going
what
to
I
not
wanted
need them to
to.
fix anything else? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I cannot believe we're at the top of the hour. Like we're like past the top of the hour. But of course, this is a great topic and I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation.
I always do. Yeah, this has been a great one. Thank you very much, Leslie.
Thank you so much. And all of you out there that are either, watching now or watching it back, we'd love to know what your thoughts are. Like, tell us what you
Yeah.
think. Like, if something landed, if something resonated, if maybe you want to go a step further and you are looking for a resource. We
Hmm.
don't ask for you to coach with us here, but we are more than willing to provide you with resources if you're looking for something to help you move through something that we've talked about in the topic of the day. And so definitely reach out to us. Let us know. Just put it in the chat or you can check the about section. We have emails that are listed in there that you can reach out directly. And also, if you're looking for something else that you want to hear about, you want us to talk on, we are open to suggestions anytime. You just pop them in there and let us know. If you've liked this, please press like and share this with your friends and pop on the bell and follow us because then you will get notifications when we go live next, which is every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And we are excited. We've excited because we started this year off to get this with a decision to go live weekly so that we can get the messages out there and really just start diving into some important topics. So
Yes.
again, thank you so much, Andy. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you also, Leslie. And yeah, um, share this around. Like Leslie said, subscribe and do all those wonderful YouTube things that YouTube likes. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll see
Thank
you
you very
next week.
much, everybody.
Bye for now.